Alright, so in this video we're going to do add a vignette effect or a vignetting to an image. Now this would be to darken at the edge of a border. It's more used on, or it's a French word used for vignette for the cards, I want to say, greeting cards and things like that. So instead of where essentially before we used a white border and we did it numerous ways, so you got many different effects, we're going to try and get the original image, but just darken it around the outside edges, just so it has more focus. So for example, file open, and I'm going to select the pool one I have ready, and you can see on the image it's fantastic. It shows the different ripples, the light on the pool and everything else, but it's not quite got a border or a focus. So your eyes could wander off the image onto to look at something else. In an art gallery, this wouldn't be ideal. So we're going to do the same as before. So we're going to use our marquee tool. Now I have put my mouse on, which I didn't realize it was switched off in the last video, so apologies. So now you can see exactly the steps that I'm clicking on. Right, so we're just going to select the outside border as we did previously and select an inverse. So you make sure you select the outside edges. Now instead of adding a new layer, we're just going to select an adjustment mode. So I'm going to select curves, and you can see automatically once you have the selection already chosen and you select the adjustment mode here and curves, then it will create a new layer automatically. So now we're able to mess with the adjustment layer and change the darkness of just that selected area of the outside edge. And as you can see, when we've done that, it's quite bold. It's straight and perfect. It's not blending in at all, which makes it a little bit too ugly, I think. So we can change the feathering on this to make it feather out and look a bit more natural. So on the top of the properties panel, if you have this graph here, you can see that you have two different modes. So you can switch over to your curves, which is this panel here, and then you can switch over to the masks properties. So there in the masks properties, we have the density even, and even more important, the feather option. So we can change this feather option and lighten it up so you can see it makes it just a little bit more natural, takes away those straight perfect edges that you wouldn't normally tend to see in a photograph. And there you have it. You have changed the effects using a vignetting effect. The best reason behind doing it with a mask is because if you don't like the exact one that you've chosen, you can always flip back. Like every other reason behind doing layer masks is it's always editable. So if you decide you didn't like it, change it again, make it not so obvious, change the darkness, change the feathering options, so you can bring it in a bit, and there you have it. So you can take that off before, you can see what it looked like previously, and adding just that little bit of detail makes it stand a bit more, I think. It's entirely your personal preference, but at least you know now you can attempt to do it yourself. Alright, so now we're going to work with, or rather we're going to edit a photo to blur a background. So file open, and I've just got this American flag here. So as you can see, I've got it on the quick selection tool. But before we do that, I am just going to drag this layer here down to the new layer icon, and that'll create a background copy. So don't forget, there's always numerous ways you can do the same thing in Photoshop. So now we have a background copy, just in case, or I can show you the differences. I'm just going to use the quick selection tool to just roughly make a quick selection. Obviously, if I was doing it a bit neater, I'd be careful on a few little edges down here, maybe up there as well. But for now, that should do. So in order to make this background a bit more blurry, I don't want it to stand out too much. The flag is going to be the main focus. So we're going to go to Filter, Blur. We're going to choose Gaussian Blur. And as you can see, when I take the radius up and blur that image, it blurs it quite well. But the only problem is, as you can see in the preview mode here, is you get like a red glow from the flag, or even at the top here. You can see you get a bit more of a glow. And as you click and select down, it's the same throughout. Now, to me, if you were doing it quite an obvious blur such as this or even more, you can see that blur gets a bit too much and kind of takes away the effect of the blur of the background and the main flag. So I'm just going to press cancel because there is a way around it. Even though it's a bit long-winded, it's worth it at the end. So for this, you've made your selection. We don't want to take that off. And we want to go to filter blur. Now we want to go to Gaussian blur again, but we only want to do that by 1 pixel, which when you've done that and select OK, you'll see the effect of it does not change dramatically. But we're going to now go to select and we're going to modify it. Now what this going to do is going to modify your selection that you've made, and we're just going to contract it so it's going to get smaller, and we're just going to change it by 1 pixel also. Now all this does is drag all the edges in by 1 pixel, and we're going to do the same as before, except now we've done Gaussian blur before. It's the same as when we use filter gallery. It's going to repeat those steps here, so we can just click that and it'll change the blur by 1 pixel. Then again, modify, contract, 1 pixel, filter, Gaussian blur, and keep going and keep going. Yes, it is long-winded. You can set up keys to do this, like we have the shortcut keys already on there, but you can add your own. So again, Gaussian blur, select, modify, contract, filter, Gaussian blur. Eventually you will start to know a difference, and also you will not get the red glow. So as you can see, there's our before. Once I take the previous selection away so you can't see it, this is the one, the original that we started with, and that's how it is now. But if you zoomed in to 100 maybe, you can see the line's getting smaller and smaller, so it's contracting in, so it's not giving you that red glow. It's quite difficult to zoom in. There we go. But it is not giving you that red luminous glow that it gave you when you tried to do the whole border instantaneously. So yes, it is a lot of effort, but it is definitely worth knowing if you want to keep the retaining of the original image. Simple as that.